Hey guys, Callum from Columbus Models here, and this week in my stash I had two of these Tamiya M8 HMC Scott kits. So I've decided, since I've got two of them, I'm going to convert one of them into this, the M8A1 GMC Prototype. Now, this is going to be a bit more than just changing out the barrel. And I've learned a lot about scratch building modifications and conversions along the way. This is purely just no real added extras, just out the box conversions. So let's get straight into it. So first off, in this conversion, we are going to follow the instructions for now. And of course, first off means making the running gear. First for the M8 Scott. We have the idler wheel here, comes in about 3 parts very nicely. You can have it spinning or not, I usually don't. And then we're just going to start building up the lower hull, adding on various detail plates and whatnot. Then we have the running gear bogies. These are made up of several parts, and being vintage Tamiya, they do have good engineering. It's just they can be a little bit fiddly to put together. You can see here it's a little bit of a, I drop it, things come apart. You kind of sit there going, is this right? Is it not? Otherwise, no real complaints there. Then, putting together the gun breech, made up of a few parts. This is already this is a kit that I was already started. I bought it second hand, so there was a few bits that I didn't need to do myself. But yeah. Building up the howitzer breech here, it's very nicely detailed. I do like the handguards that come with it. And now we're building up the turret itself. The turret interior largely unchanged from between the M8 Scott production and the M8A1 Prototype. Putting in the gun sights here, you have both indirect and direct fire here. You will see later on I modify this as well, purely off photos. And unfortunately, you can't put the turret together until you have put the breech in. And you can have it move up and down. I usually glue them. And now for starting some of the conversions. So first off, the turret roof. The turret has a small roof right at the back, which holds the 50 caliber mounting ring, as well as areas for stowage and stuff like that. But the prototype does not have that, so we're first removing the tab and some injector pin marks from the interior, and then putting that onto the back of the turret here. There are some also tabs that you will see that I forgot about removing them, but it's not too noticeable at the end. It kind of looks like it's actually part of the structure, so it's not too bad. And now it's actually time to do some more conversions. First up, you'll notice these handles for holding grousers on the sides of the turret, quite typical for Stewarts and Scotts. However, the prototype does not have it, but it does have this weird sort of weld bead handle thing along the top. So, got the Dremel out and a grinding tool. First off, you grind away all the detail from the side of the turret. You will see you have all these mounting rings and stuff like that for the grouses and the weird dots along the top. I'm not sure what they are, but they need to come off. So you need to grind off all detail except for that the weld line along the top there. And next up is replacing the barrel, because it's a bit noticeable, the main noticeable difference between an M8A1 and an M8. You do need to drill it out a bit, because I got a barrel from a Sherman, a Dragon Sherman, actually, the short-barreled 75 M3. So you do need to grind out and widen the mantlet on the Scott, because that's the only way you can get the barrel to actually fit in there. And a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of sanding, but you can see there it goes in quite nicely. So we're building up more of the conversion. Next up, we're going to address this seam right here. And the way I did that, eyeballed it with some stretch sprue. I'm not sure if it was like a handle that stuck out or not. It doesn't look like in the photos, so we're just going to go with that. You can see the turret is slowly transforming. After that, we have all these guide holes for handles and stuff like that, which the prototype doesn't have. So, as well as to add some cast texture using the Tamiya extra thin and putty technique, just to add some cast texture. And don't forget, since this is an open top turret, it is a good idea to do the cast texture on the inside as well, especially because this is a prototype, one-offs. There wasn't a lot of detail put into them, not a lot of finishing. It is very rough, so just one thing to remember. And then just sanding down with about a 2,000 to 3,000 grit sanding sponge, just to blend in the cast texture a bit more and make it look a little bit more realistic and stuff like that. So the turret is slowly getting there. There's only one more part that I need to convert, and that is drilling a triangular hole. Of course, since the gun was different, there wasn't enough room for the actual cannon to elevate properly, so you need to cut that out. And of course, you might notice one little thing. This is the howitzer, the M1 75mm howitzer. And you will notice there is a difference between that and the M3 cannon breech. Quite a big difference, actually. No handles, barrel, breech is vertical instead of horizontal, and a few other things. So I decided I'm not going to scratch build it. I'm going to 3D design it using Tinkercad. Did this in about a day, just because I didn't know how I was going to scratch build it, and getting a few more lessons in designing stuff in printing. So that's what I did. And of course, since I put the howitzer breech in, because I didn't realize they were completely separate designs, I got to try and cut it out with a rotary tool, with great care, I might add, because if that starts bouncing around, you will destroy a lot of other things. And then using some super glue to glue in the newly printed cannon breech. It's not absolutely perfect. Could be scaled a little bit bigger, but for the purposes of what I'm doing, absolutely fine. And then I'm going to unify everything with a coat of primer, just so I can double check, make sure there's no gaps, mistakes, anything like that. Or if there are, lets me know how to hide them, basically. I'm a master at hiding mistakes, especially in photos. But nevertheless, we are going to focus on building up some more of the hull. First off, with the front plate with the hatches, drivers, and the radio operator's hatch. Typical Tamiya, goes on quite nicely. This is a kit from the 70s, so it doesn't have, there are a few details missing underneath. And then the upper hull roof can go on as well. Again, very nicely detailed. Up next, for the next bit of converting, the fenders. You'll notice that the prototype, the fenders are cut off at the front. They don't extend all the way, just like in the M8 Scott kit. So again, cutting tool out, and we need to grind them off, as well as being very careful. Luckily, the plastic does cut away very easily. You just need to make sure the cutting tool doesn't bounce around and destroy other bits and details. After that, you just sand it down nicely. Next up, for the upper hull, we have bolts and these extra large seam lines. It seems like the prototype had these massive seams that aren't present in production models, so using some stretch sprue again to try and replicate them. The photos do indicate that they are quite heavy welds. So it's just nice to add a little bit of detail to the side, because the side is quite flat. And then using some spare bolt heads from different kits, put in the 6 bolts along the side here. This is a feature you'll see in earlier model Stewarts, but in the Tamiya M8 Scott kit you won't see them. So again, it's just nice to add a little bit of surface detail to the sides, because otherwise they are quite flat. Up next, time to start priming everything. Make sure it's all unified together. Just using the AK white primer here. Didn't always go with white because it makes pre-shading a bit easier. Decided not to pre-shade the interior though. However, I decided to do some post-shading instead using the AK modular olive drab set, and making it a little bit lighter for the inside, just to make it try and stand out a bit more, because it's going to be inside and with shadow, so I want it to just pop out a little bit more when you have a look down it, but not be too, contrasty. I did the same with the interior of the turret as well, making sure to give it all a nice coat of I believe it is the olive drab light base I use for the interior, just to try and brighten it up a bit and make it a bit more noticeable from the inside. Then using a lighter shade, I believe it's the shine or highlights, and filling in the interior of all the panels just to try and make them pop a little bit. In the video footage, it's not as apparent as it is in real life. Don't know if I need to adjust some video settings maybe just to make it pop a bit more, but for the exterior I decided to do some pre-shading instead of post-shading, so getting some Tamiya black and outlining all the details, not necessarily as a sort of shading sort of thing, but I just want any details to sort of stand out a bit more and just give it a bit more modulation in the overall colors, because it is just a single flat color, olive drab. So trying to do everything I can to just, you know, make it pop a little bit more, make it look a bit more interesting than just a flat olive drab base. Doing the same with the sides of the hull here, with the assistance of the Floki painting rig. Thanks to my mate, Floki, also known as Clint from my podcast. He designs and prints these themselves, and you can buy them off him if you want to. Doing the same with the turret. Since there are, I'm trying to add a few extra details and stuff like that. So you just want to try and make it as interesting as you can with the paint, because you have removed a lot of details. So you got to try and sort of force shadows and details in it. After that, going again with the light olive drab base, just to distinguish it from, say, well, normal standard olive. I've been using the olive drab a lot and kind of got bored with it, so I wanted to go with a bit lighter. Also figured with the lighter color as well will also help with the pre-shading as well. If I went too dark on the olive drab, then it might just, you might lose the effect, which I wanted to keep. So going with the light olive drab on this one. Also remembering to, when you're airbrushing something like this where you've painted the inside, as long as you angle everything, you don't need to mask off too much. Painting some of the details, because there's not much. First up is the tires, the road wheels for the bogie system. Mixed up a rubber black out of dark grey and black, and just hand brushing them on with some, the paint there is Tamiya enamel. Then going through highlighting all raised detail, again just to add some more interest. This is with the olive drab shine colour, and I will say, this is actually one of the more relaxing parts of a build. I actually quite enjoy doing these sort of highlightings and stuff like that, going over details, rivets and stuff like that. I know for some people it drives them up the wall. For me, I actually quite enjoy the process. Painting the seats for the crew. Of course, one of the failings of the prototype was the crew couldn't actually fit after the cannon went inside. Giving the interior a pin wash, well, not really a pin wash, this is just an overall wash, especially over this, the grated steel plates for the floor. Again, just to try and bring out some of that, because it will be inside in shadow, so you want to just try and make everything pop out so you can see everything nicely. And then adding in the ammo as well, just decided to add these in, even though it's a prototype. Just because I want it to look like it's going to be taken out for testing and stuff like that. And also you had all these tabs that I didn't want to grind off in sand, so it was just nicer just to add a little bit of detail to the interior, because there's honestly not too much. Off camera I also added on the red fire extinguisher as well, just to hide that tab you see in the middle there. After that, I gave the exterior a nice pin wash just to bring out more of the details. It does have some fairly nice details along the top here, and I wanted just to make them pop, especially with the doing the highlights as well, just to try and bring it out a bit more, because again, it's a single color, so you want to do everything you can to make everything stand out on every part of it. You don't want it looking too bland and boring. After that, I tried doing an oil dot filter on the lower hull, just because it is slab-sided on the side and not too interesting, and there's only so much you could do with pre-shading as well. So I wanted to do a dot filter just to try and change up some of the color modulation on it, just make it look a little bit different and nicer. I was going to do this with the upper hull, but then decided I didn't quite like the effect it gave, but luckily with oil paint you can wash it away fairly easily without any leftover. So using multiple colors, greens, yellows and browns, all colors associated with the color olive drab, and then just blending it in just to add a little bit of variation within the olive drab itself. Again, it's just an attempt to make the olive drab look a little bit more interesting. And you can see here it's blending in quite nicely, and you get a slight modulation around the side of the hull. And overall, I'm happy with it, but could I pushed it a little bit more? I probably could have. The video doesn't show it up that well anyway, but I was happy with how it looked at the end of the day, but I'm glad I didn't do it to the upper hull. Okay, next up, it is time for doing the decals. Of course, the M8 prototype, M8A1 prototype only has one, and it's actually a decal you have to cut up on the rear here. So on the standard M8 Scott kit, the USA and then serial numbers are all in one line. However, on the prototype, it is broken up with the USA on the top and then the serial number underneath. So you just need to cut the decal up to place it all. Of course, being a Tamiya decals, and especially old Tamiya decals, they are quite thick and they stand up quite a bit. So a few flat coats and some sanding with a sponge was needed. Just a light bit of weathering now. Of course, this is a prototype. I didn't want it to do like overly weathered. It's just because it did all its prototype trials at Fort Knox. So I didn't want to overly do it. Just doing some light dusting as if it'd been driving around on concrete and gravel roads and stuff like that. Just using the AK pigment European Earth and just dry brushing it on, and then using some fixer afterwards to lock it in place. Once I was happy with how it looked, the good thing with pigments is you can brush them off quite easily and manipulate them around. And even if you layer up pigment and then fixer and then more pigment on top. So I like to do a sharp line of pigment and then using a stiffer brush and a wider one just to try and blend it upwards a bit naturally, just where it would sort of be more heavily focused and then less so. I also did this for the bogies, as you can see here, and it is also time to start adding the bogies on. So these, you may have to be a bit careful with how they fit on. They were a bit tight trying to push them in, and I almost broke a few of them. So, and then also got to make sure that they all line up flat on the ground as well. Otherwise, it's going to look a little bit weird. After that, I wanted to put some tarps on the inside of the turret just to make it a little bit more interesting, and also because the fit between my printed breech and the kit breech where I cut it wasn't the best, so there ended up being quite a big noticeable seam line and a bit of a gap. So if when in doubt, cover it with a tarp, and no one will know that you've made a mistake there. So I'm just using tissue paper soaked in water and PVA to try and mold it to there with some plastic underneath so I can pull it off. After that, glued it down and then painted it with various shades of different greens. I didn't want to continue with the olive drab. I wanted to use some other greens, so both tarps got a different darker green. And then using a light highlight, sort of grey-green, I dry brushed over just to pick out some of the highlights and all the raised edges and stuff like that, because just for a little bit of visual interest as well. It's not like absolutely perfect, but it will do the job, we'll say. I replaced the tracks. The Tamiya rubber band tracks were horrible and the design was wrong. And I managed to find an AFV Club aftermarket for T16 tracks, which are the tracks that we used on the prototype. So I clipped them all together. They were all workable and I didn't glue any of them. And first painted them the rubber black that I used for the tires, then masked off the rubber pads and painted the teeth and connectors, and then unmasking them all, which was very satisfying, I gotta say. The masking worked really well. I wasn't sure if it would work or not, but It also added to some of the pins, the links were popping off, didn't have the best connection, so using the masking tape as well just helped with manipulating it for painting and just keeping them together, because they are a bit of a pain in the ass to clip together. And putting the tracks on with the sprocket wheel now, it is a bit fiddly. You do have to be careful, and even when clipping them on, you will notice the tracks have a little bit of a sag to them. If you use the correct amount, you couldn't get them to connect, so you have to add one more, which adds a little bit of sag, which I didn't like, but no one's going to really know, and if they do, I'm sure you'll call me out in the video. The last thing that I wanted to do was just weather up the tracks to match the rest of the lower hull as well, just dry brushing the pigments on again. What I do like is it does highlight a lot of the raised edges as well, and makes it look like it's been driving over stuff as well, so I quite enjoy this form of weathering as well. And before we get to the reveal, I just want to shout out my Patreon supporters. My paying member, Floki's Models, and my 2 followers, Scott Bryant and Dave. Big shout out to you guys for support. And if you want to join my Patreon, you'll find me under Columbus Models. You'll have access to all the STLs that I currently have on Colts 3Ds for free, well, as part of that package, as well as any other new things as well. And I will be constantly adding on new designs that I make, which you will have access to, as well as just showing some support. I think I've got it set to, I think, $4 a month or something like that. So it's not too much, and I really appreciate the help. And here we have it, the finished M8A1 GMC Prototype. Gotta say, being a first major conversion that I've ever done, I really enjoyed myself. I actually found myself enjoying this the absolute most out of all my builds this year. I gotta say, I was just sort of going with the flow and following a photo, and yeah. A little note, you might have noticed when I talk about the M8 Scott, I say HMC, and the M8A1 is GMC. That's just a little difference. HMC is howitzer motor carriage, GMC is gun motor carriage. It's just how the Americans identify things. Off camera, I also added on the tools on the back, just for a little added detail on the back, and built this small base with M8A1 GMC Prototype stenciled on the side of it. It was supposed to be a separate video, but that footage just went somewhere, and I'm not sure. But otherwise, I hope you guys learnt something on how to convert a Scott into the M8A1 Prototype, and hopefully I've inspired you guys to try out the same, whether it's with this particular vehicle or with just another. It's always fun just to look at photos and just go for broke and just do whatever you want sort of thing. So yeah, they are a lot of fun. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video, and you will notice on the channel I am doing a lot of other different types of videos like vlogs and stuff like that, so go check them out. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.